And with your target now, what you need to see, pick some partials, but as the last target, have filling it fully. And this is again, then we have direction, and this is then you look to catch clear opportunities. Alright, so this is one of my favorite tricks from my own arsenal, something that I've been using for quite some time while trading euro-dollar, using DXY chart dollar index to spot lower time frame, execution time frame draws on liquidity for quick in and out positions, quick in and out scalp trades. Sometimes they line up for our bigger day trades when we have daily time frame and lower time frame alignment, and when we have everything in sync. This is of course when it acts as a major confluence factor as well. But talking about those quicker moves, one of the major factors that holds a lot of weight in price delivery, acts as a vacuum and pulls price, our dollar index gaps. So let me show you what exactly I'm talking about. Alright, so what we have here on the left, what we have is inverted DXY chart, and what we have on the right is euro dollar. Something that we already talked about and what I personally do. I always watch DXY chart on an inverted setting. So for Mac users, you simply need to press Option and I, and for Windows users, if I recall correctly, it's Alt and I. What it does, it simply inverts your chart, and this is when you pretty much have two identical charts what comes to DXY and euro dollar, and then there is cracking correlation. It's very easy to see SMT diversions, for example, and everything else. So this is what I personally do. And then there's something not lining up when price is moving out of sync. This is obviously then you can start seeing some potential signs of reversal and everything else. What we have here on DXY, notice we have an empty gap right here. So what we need to do when we do have that is identify that area. What I also always like to do, identify the low of it, write down what is the price of that level, then find the midpoint and know what is the level as well. Because remember, this is where we have three targets, and I will explain you what I mean in a second right here. And we have high of it. So now what we have is target 1 right here. Then what we have a bit higher is target 2, the middle point of this gap on DXY. And lastly, the third and final target is of course the high right here. Obviously, if you would be looking at a normal DXY chart, it would be a low right here, but as we had it inverted following the euro dollar, this is obviously then we call it as a high. So in most cases on euro dollar, what you will have is just a simple imbalance point. Not something extraordinary or something that will drastically take and draw your attention if you would be looking, let's say, at euro dollar chart only. But when you have this alignment right here, you have a clear imbalance point on euro dollar. Let's say even some low resistance, buy side liquidity around that area as well. And looking left right here on DXY, you got the chart, you have a clear gap. This is when very often, if the bigger direction is bearish here on euro dollar, and of course is bullish on DXY, but as it's inverted, it's looking bearish as well. When we have that, this is very often when price opening on the next day will give you a nice and clear setup, trading to the upside, filling the gap fully before continuing in the initial direction. So this is what you will have on DXY as well. Price trading higher, filling this gap, in most cases reaching T1 and T2 right here, the low and the midpoint, and sometimes it will fully close the gap, reaching even the high, sometimes even leaving some SNT as well, and then it drops in the initial bearish direction if we have a bigger lower time frame, let's say, trend. So this is when we can very easily here on euro dollar catch a quick long position, trading towards this gap area, looking to scale out based on DXY targets as well as euro dollar, of course, if you have something in this area as well. But the main reason of this trade, the main backbone, the main foundation is this vacuum area right here, is the magnet, which is the gap that price left, closing on this price and opening on this price. So now from that point, opening the next day or even the day after, if you have a clear setting, let's say during London kill zone, price sharply bottoming out, giving sharp and clear structures, this is when you can catch potential quick opportunities trading towards this gap right here. So now let me show you some examples. All right, so what you can see right here is Monday, 10th of February. And looking left, what we have right here is Friday, 7th of February. So overall, what we have and what we need to concentrate is this gap right here. The bigger picture, you can see prices on a pretty clear downtrend. Again, it's inverted DXY chart, so it's actually an uptrend. And we view it as a downtrend right here. So on this day, opening after the New York Midnight Open, what we want to highlight for ourselves right away is is this gap right here. So what we would do is focus not on the wicks, but on the bodies. Sometimes there will be a wick, let's see right here, but what you want to do is focus only on the bodies of candles right here, where this gap happened. Then, as mentioned before, what we want to do as well is identify T1, T2, and the last target. So in this case, you can see that T1 was hit right after, right here. You can see that price was already trading around T1. The T2 for us would be the midpoint of this gap right here. So on euro dollar, trading towards this gap, this would become your first main target because again, the low was already reached. And lastly, of course, the very high of it right here. So in this case, on euro dollar, what you have after the New York Midnight Open, if price is nicely bottoming out right here, this is when you can expect price to start pushing into this gap right here, focusing on the midpoint as T1 and this high as your T2 and the final target. And notice what dollar chart does. It runs right into the high of it right here, and after that takes out the low and starts pushing to the downside again. So you can see that price been pushing to the downside for quite some time right here, but before it continues, it fills this gap right here and only then drops to the downside. So now notice what doing that they happen on the euro dollar chart. Here on euro dollar, we are on 2-minute execution time frame, and here on DXY to have a better vision than to be able to see what is going on, we are on the 15-minute time frame. So now what we have overall is this vacuum area, is this magnet area that we just talked about. And on the euro dollar, notice that price during the earthy window, the area where we want for price to actually reverse and form strong structures, which is for London kill zone, is from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. right here. Notice that price forms a very nice and clear strong low right here. It runs sell side liquidity, gives a clear shift in delivery right here. Then it rejects this BPR right here. Bearish imbalance overlapping bullish imbalance. Very nice rejection right here. Gives another push to the upside, and this is where a very nice and neat entry could have been born right here. What we have is a crystal clear bullish order block right here. What we also have is tiny bullish fair value gap as well. Then measuring this retracement from this body to the high of these bodies right here. If you would measure OT points, notice that price retraced right into the optimal trade entry area 0.72 to 0.79, just a perfect rejection. So this would be a pretty high probability type of a scalp. In your case, you could enter right here, or you could even wait for price to actually reject and give a reaction and enter right after that with your stop loss covering most of this price action right here. And with your target, now what you need to see is how price is running based on the DXY chart. So seeing where it stopped, you can see that price went all the way right here. This formation here on the 2-minute time frame, this high is this high here on the DXY chart. So obviously what we would be targeting is firstly the midpoint right here of this gap. Pick some partials, but as the last target have DXY gaps high, which was taken to the absolute top right here. So obviously based on a live running chart, you would be looking at how price is developing, how price is running when it gives a sharp push to the upside like that. You would obviously take partials, move our stop losses to break even, and look to be fully out of our position once price fills this gap entirely, because this is when usually it is showing that it is ready to continue trading in the initial direction that we have before. So this is obviously just a one simple example. You could go over many charts and build some data for yourself. This is something that I simply wanted to show, and that the DXY gaps very often acts as very nice magnet areas. Even here, you can see we have this gap, price fills some of it right here, but then after the near midnight open, it climbs all the way back, filling it fully before eventually dropping to the downside right here. So this is there obviously opening on this day on euro dollar. If you would have everything nicely aligning, sharp structures, clear PD race and all of that, this is where you could dang some quick in and out opportunities trading towards high of this gap on the DXY chart right here. And remember that this is just a magnetic area. To take trades towards it, we would need to have nice and clear price action on euro dollar, something that I showed you in the example a few minutes ago. Then scrolling forward right here, this is even better and something that I talked about before. When we have a clear direction and a gap formed performs in that direction, this is even better because we would already on this day open expecting for this buy side liquidity to be taken out because we have bullish order flow price pushing towards buy side liquidity pools, rejecting bullish PD raise. But when we have an open gap towards that area as well, this is even better because this is simply acts as an additional confidence factor, as an additional vacuum type of an area for price to trade towards. And of course, if price action is clear, this is very one to look for opportunities on euro dollar, of course. Then this is another example. Notice that on this day opening right here, what we had here on the left was a very clear gap. And notice what we had here inside of this delivery. Even without dropping to the euro dollar, you can see that the whole delivery was very clear. Price left this low, rejected this bullish fair value gap right here, another rally, bullish order block rejection, and it simply continues building higher to fill this vacuum area, to fill this gap right here. So as mentioned before, our low point, our T1 is this low right here. So August, you would be looking for opportunities, for long opportunities towards this low right here. Then second area that we would focus on euro dollar as our target area, of course, is the midpoint right here. And lastly, as mentioned, this high right here being the last target. And notice how nicely this whole day ends right here on dollar index. Price reaches the high, goes a few pips above it right here, and then starts pulling back during the Asia range right here. So 2 days in a row after the near midnight open right here, price starts climbing into this magnet area right here. And then on another day, notice that during the PM window going into the Asia range, price leaves another racking area right here, another gap. And then after the near midnight open, it starts pushing right into it to fill that. And this is again, then we have direction, and this is then you look for clear price action on euro dollar to catch clear opportunities. No matter if it's a scalp opportunity, day trade opportunity, this acts as a target and something that you want to trade towards. If I want to highlight once again, you have everything on your side what comes to euro dollar, and I'm talking about clear price action, clear delivery, price rejecting PD raise, leaving clear strong structures, and everything is happening during one of our kill zones. So that is all for this one. I hope it was insightful, and we will talk soon.